I have deliberately planned this subject at the end because this is pertinent for everybody, and I know the importance of the subject that also did not let people go out of the hall. So, my first, we have the two champions of Make in India. If you look at ACMA, Auto Component Manufacturers Association has, I think they are net exporter right now. They have, and also we have JCB, that's an American construction equipment company that has increased their exports. British construction equipment company, which has increased their export from India 3x, means 300% in the last 2 years. So that's the reason these two gentlemen are sitting here and discussing Make in India. So before I start asking the question, just want to understand from both of you, how do you see Make in India for this particular section, which is off-highway, and what are the roadblocks? I hear a lot of confusion. We'll talk about that policy side confusion in the construction equipment. But as of now, as a corporate, how do you see this,
I think it's, first of all, thank you very much, Nabeel, for having us here. It's a great opportunity. I think it's an opportunity of a lifetime. I'm very proud that today the construction equipment machines which are produced in India are exported to more than 125 countries. And normally when we talk about exports from India, sometimes we look at, particularly in the manufacturing sector, we look at Middle East, Latin America or South Africa. But I'm today very proud that we are exporting straight to North America. We are exporting to Europe. And I think probably a year back we had a small celebration when we sent our first machines to Japan. So as an industry, I think the industry deserves a round of applause, And we are in a global village, as they say, and I think the industry has come a long way. The machines which are produced are second to none. The technology, and we heard about digital technology. I think today, thanks to the use of digital technology in various aspects of business, the machines which are as good as them produced anywhere. So I think it's a great opportunity. I'm very proud about making India for the world, and I'm sure the industry will benefit more and more with this focus on quality, cost, and reliability that the export market will demand out of us.
That's really inspiring and encouraging. We are no more exporting to those developing nations, but the developed countries like Japan, Europe. That's a big a hit for us. Sunjay, auto component industry did so well in the exports. We have seen that already, the developed market is accepting, and component industry already we were supplying to Europe and all. What's the next level that you will prove that Make in India for the world, component industry, where are you seeing the next level?
So thanks, Nabeel. I think your topic really should be not just Make in India, but design in India. Because the real key to any success that we're going to see or we have seen is really because we have the ability and the capability to design products. We've invested heavily in technology. You're absolutely right in terms of the trade surplus. We've exported $19 billion from the component industry this year with a trade surplus of $700 million, which is the first time in its history. We of course export to large markets like United States, so the whole North American market, Europe and China. The off-highway industry, which is inclusive of farm equipment, construction equipment, as well as sports utility equipment, golf carts, etc., is a very large industry. And it's a very exciting opportunity for us in the component space because it's a growing industry. I would say the construction equipment industry, farm equipment industry in India also has a lot of players. So fragmented to some extent, but the large players are very well established, like the JCBs of the world. The fact is that we are able to grow in that space because of the evolution in terms of the technology, and this industry is shaping up very quickly in terms of evolving technology, very similar to what's happening in passenger car. And trucks, of course. And the opportunity to export is huge for us. So we're excited, and Deepak's touched upon the kind of work that they're doing. And, as their numbers increase, so do ours. So we're super excited about it.
Indeed, design in India is equally very important to sustain the export that we have. Deepak, I would also ask you one question. Last 2 quarters, we have seen the construction equipment industry or off-highway industry did not do so well in the domestic market. So many argue that it could be compulsion to export to maintain your, plant's capacity. How do you react to that?
I think it's certainly a fact that as we came out of the pandemic, there were certainly challenges. We have seen last few quarters, the pace of road construction has slowed down. But I'm very positive about what lies ahead. I think we are seeing the green shoots. If you see the various indicators, the lead indicators, they are all talking about positive. I'm sure the geopolitical situation is throwing some challenges. But overall, if I look from the government's focus, the focus on infrastructure, I think the construction equipment industry is in the sweet spot of that focus. And I'm sure the industry will come back very strongly and we should see some good numbers going forward. So reference to your question on the capacity, I think it's a great opportunity, I would say, that under the pressure of export, need to export, if it challenges us to do something different. And particularly, I will say that we are going through these transitions from the emission norms. So if you have to supply to the developed world, you have to meet those norms. And tomorrow, when those norms become applicable to India, the Indian customers will get benefit of those norms. So I think this is a very positive challenge that we have. And I'm sure coming out of this, the industry will only become more stronger.
Farm equipment, is seen largely, just tractor exports, but implement is a big business. We have been talking all through the day. How do you think, because you are yourself one of the suppliers or one of the manufacturer of implements, how do you see this segment can explore the make in India for the world?
I think it's a very good question. And sometimes when we see a logo of farm equipment, as we see here, there's a tractor which is next to it. But I think the industry has grown much wider. And I had an opportunity of living and working in UK, and I was telling Nabeel earlier that the telehandlers that JCB manufactures, we are one of the largest in the world. In fact, majority of those telehandlers go into the farm sector. Similarly, our backhoe loaders, they have multiple, as you talked about, the implements or the attachments that we have. So I think that whole board line kind of thing between construction equipment and farm equipment, I think has gone away. The people have become more imaginative. I think our customers are more imaginative. And let me share something with you. Sometimes the JCBs, as we speak about, we think that they are used only in cities to build roads. But let me tell you, 75% of our machines go to rural market, and 70% of those are the first-time users who are using those machines. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to move beyond tractors and to improve the mechanization that we have. The telehandlers that we have, the skid steer loaders that we have, again, with attachments can be used in the market. We have seen that happening in the developed world, and I'm sure we'll see more of it happening in India.
Thank you, Deepak. Sunjay, overall, if you look at the auto component industry, engine is one of the biggest grosser when it comes to revenue. For export, what are the learning that you could share with the audience here, those who are watching us live? What are the business opportunity that you see for the component suppliers specific to off-highway equipments, be it also in different regions where you see the opportunity? Like he mentioned that even the developed nation are opening up very well for for accepting Indian manufacturing.
Yeah, so Nabeel, we're in terms of the component industry, before that I want to touch upon implements. I think, implements has become a huge opportunity for us in India. It's something that we've focused on in terms of developing products because we have the ability to do that. So we have, focused on developing that space within the component industry, and that's, of course, gives us a bigger business opportunity. And with regard to exports, again, it's very dependent on the kind of technologies that we adopt. Fortunately, in the component industry, we've increased the spend on technology, our joint ventures or technical agreements, so that we can adopt technology so that we can serve the world. And, to your point of making in India and designing in India for the world, we're really trying to create an automotive hub with all the technology and all the investment that's going in terms of manufacturing. And, from our perspective, India is a great place to manufacture. And it's a great place to manufacture because we have the right makings of a very strong component industry, a very robust component industry. And we can see that even through the pandemic, we actually come out much stronger. When you talk about exports, if you look at China plus one, the China plus one strategies played out pretty well from my perspective, in terms of business, not moving away from China, but any increase in business has come, to India. It's not easy to move overnight, not easy to shut operations, but there's more emphasis on, sourcing from India. In fact, if you look at ACMA, we work with several IPOs, which are the purchase organization, international purchase organizations of tier one as well as OEMs. To source from India. So again, great opportunities, and I'm very bullish on this trend of this double-digit growth. We had a 23% growth in exports this year, 43% last year, and I see this trend continuing in the double digits.
Now, Deepak, we see that TREM 4 is going to come in farm equipment. TREM 5 is slated for 2025, but for construction equipment, I think TREM 4 equivalent happened already, and 5 is going to happen in 2024. But there's a lot of anomalies there. I heard that the construction equipments which have tires, they need to meet the emission criteria, but there is another rule for those equipments which doesn't have a wheel or tire. Those who run on tram, or they have a different. How does it look like? Can you please spell out?
I think it's a very interesting point that you are making, and sometimes the intent get lost in between all this the jargons that we have. But what you say is very true, and it is actually unfortunate that that on one side the machines which are on wheels have followed the requirement of BSC EV4, and the transition has taken place from 1st of April. There was a bit of extension given. However, it is unfortunate that the machines on tracks, the tracked excavators particularly, are not covered through those same emission norms. So you can imagine that in rural India, there can be a farm or a field where on one side there can be a wheel machine which is adhering to the highest standards of emission, and then there can be a tracked machine which can be spewing all the pollutants that we don't want. Having said that, as an industry, the construction equipment industry has taken it up with the government at various levels, and we believe that this important point will get attention. The point that you're making is also very important, because what happens is, as we move up the emission norm scale, more and more global markets become open for us. So today, if you look at it, that the machines which are built in India, the wheel machines can go anywhere in the world, but the track machines are limited unless you want to invest into that technology. So I think taking the whole industry, obviously we have our responsibility from the sustainability point of view, from the various commitments we are making from the environment point of view, but also there is a business opportunity. All these markets will become open for us. So it's a very good point you are making, and I'm sure the powers to be will focus on this important aspect. And as it is done around the world, bring parity. The mode of how the machine moves should not decide. It is the engine norms and the pollution norms which should take precedence.
So technology has become India's prowess when it comes to especially the software side of it. You have done a lot of work on telematics. How do you see this as becoming one of the biggest asset for India, for Make in India to export to the world? How do you utilize this capability of India for your global operations?
So I will answer it in two parts. I think Sunjay made a very important point about need to design in India. And here I will not talk about the industry first, I'll talk about JCB as a company. We have got a design center in Pune and we have got more than 500 engineers. And let me tell you today, whether the machine is produced in our factories in UK, in Brazil, or in America, no machine is launched without support from the team in Pune. And I think that's a very important or very moment of pride for us. More importantly, it also gives opportunity for this young talent that we have to get exposed to the various leading technologies that we have. We spoke about digital technology. I think if at all something has come out positive from COVID is this need and understanding of digital technology. We were able to service our customers. I got so many appreciation notes that we received from the army because of what happened on the border, what was happening on the border. And during those days, our teams were using digital technology to support the people who wanted to use those machines. And I think it was a very powerful or very positive outcome. If I quickly go to telematics, we are very proud that we have more than 210,000 machines across India, the data from which I can see on my mobile phone every day in the morning. And today, it is not only about the data coming to you, but it is how you utilize the data. So on top of all the data that we get, we have put data analytics, and then we can sort of get more granular and understand the data. So your point, yes, certainly the opportunity that we have in India, the understanding or the capability that we have in India, today we can provide support to the world. I want to share something with you that last few months we have been talking about this chip shortage. And around 6 months or a year back, my everyday used to go tracking a particular flight which used to take off from Cincinnati to Winnipeg because the plane was carrying our chips. And let me tell you, I gave a challenge to our engineering team in Pune, young team, average age around 25 years. Last Diwali, they worked through Diwali and they created alternates. They wrote their own softwares because of which we were able to use alternate chips. And I'm very proud that even during the tough times, JCB was not short in delivering one machine to our customers that they wanted. And that was because we were quickly able to do our own programming, own software, and use alternate chips. So I think investment in digital, investment in technology locally is equally important.
What's your current level of localization? And your export is going well, and further you plan to increase that, and local market is also, you said, that is coming back. You have seen the green shoots. So just want to understand, how are you trying to expand yourself here?
Yeah. So first of all, I think we are very fortunate to have, and I know most of our supplier partners are members of ACMA, but we are very proud of the supplier base that we have developed. Let me share with you that the backhoe loader, or as sometimes called the JCB, 96% of components are manufactured locally in India. I think it's a unique example. And overall, if I talk about all our products together, it's maybe around 60%. So there is certainly opportunity to do more. And I feel that the strength that an organization has, if you are more local, if your supply chains are shorter, we have seen what happens when a few months back when there was a logjam at Shanghai port. It created so many problems, but we didn't face problems because our parts come from Palwal, Prithla, and all these local areas. That is our strength.
Great. Sunjay, passenger vehicle is the start of this segment, then followed by two-wheeler, commercial vehicle, and then probably comes the term of off-highway and segment. Do you think the ranking still continues when you talk about focusing or trying to grab the business share?
So after hearing Deepak, I'll put off-highway right on top. I mean, if they can manufacture their own chips, they're doing phenomenally well. There's a notion that this is true, and I think this is more linked to volumes. Just because passenger car volumes were globally at probably close to 80 million, and in India, of course, it's about 4 million with 20 million two-wheelers. However, if you look at technology and what Deepak touched upon in terms of the phenomenal stuff they're doing, I remember a few years ago seeing an advertisement on TV where this DHL guy walks into a farmer's home, rings the bell and gives him a DHL package, and the farmer opens it and there's an air filter. And he says, I didn't order this. And he said, you didn't, but your tractor did. So, the fact is that the tractor was so connected even then, and the technology is evolving so rapidly, and the kind of investment that's going on in JCB's, wall where they have mapping every single tractor for maintenance, for usage, etc. It's phenomenal. I've gone and seen it, and no other OEM has that. I mean, I think it would be difficult to do with passenger car, and may even interfere in GDPR issues in terms of data protection and data privacy. But I think the technology that the off-highway vehicle industry has adopted is as good, if not better, than what we have in the passenger car space. So I don't think we should think that from a technology perspective they're anywhere behind. Even with regard to automation, with regard to electrification, with everything, with connected, and I think they've been connected much sooner than we have.
What is the pie size of total auto component comes from this industry?
So again, it's very reflective of what the pie is in the global automotive world. Passenger car is the largest, pie, because again, that's what is the automotive world. So China has 21 million vehicles. United States passenger car. United States does have 17 million, and that's how the markets. That's how our supply chain operate. Fine, we have some restrictions with China, but other than that, I think the United States is the largest export market for us. So that's very dependent on market share in terms of what the output of OEMs is.
Thank you, Sanjay. Interestingly, we are the largest producer of tractors, but that is only by number. By value, we do not even feature among top 10, I guess. Can you give us a sense what it is like for off-highway? We are already, I think, third largest market for off-highway construction equipments. How do you see? Give us some guidance on that also.
I think sometimes it's not known, but construction equipment industry today is the third largest after North America and China. And we firmly believe that the vision document that Indian Construction Equipment Manufacturers Association had released a year back talks about Vision 2030. And we expect this market to be the second largest. That is the opportunity in front of us. And that's the opportunity for all our supply chain partners. And particularly this is doable, and I think the biggest contributor in this journey is going to be the Indian market, considering the whole lineup of projects that the government has, whether it is as a part of the national infrastructure pipeline or through the Gati Shakti project, etc. So we feel very positive about it.
Before I open the floor for questions from the audience, one final question from my side. If you look at Make in India for the world in terms of construction equipment, I think it is always byproduct of the local market also. If your local market is rich enough, then only you can produce for the world. Just want to understand, what are the hindrances, what are the challenges that you think needs to be resolved before we enable to be the leader, world hub for off-highway, manufacturing?
I think the challenges that we see are probably common for the manufacturing sector as a whole. I can start first with the whole challenges of logistics. And as recently the National Logistics Policy was released, and I think it's a very ambitious goal to go from, today the industry struggles because it's almost 14% is the cost of logistics, and the government wants to take it to 8%. I think it is very positive, and that will be, again, it will give us that opportunity, because you start with a sort of start with a handicap kind of thing because of the higher logistics cost. The second, I would say, is the investment in advanced technologies locally. And I personally feel that the whole emphasis that the government has given from the PLI scheme's point of view is going to benefit. I spoke about the chip, the chip even today travels all the way from North America. And I'm sure with the new initiative that has been taken, I think that will again reduce our burden. There are certain other critical components, particularly on the electronics side, for which we are again dependent all around the world. I feel the Indian industry has to step up and see how we can localize more and more on this front. But I would say, as in any industry, there are always headwinds and tailwinds. And I'm sure as we can come together and sort out the challenges that we have in front of us. I think the right initiatives are being taken, and no day goes for me when we don't see a supplier partner come forward and say that you are importing this from wherever, and now we are producing it in India. I think it's a very positive time for us.
Thank you, Deepak. Your take, and then we'll open the floor.
So similar to what Deepak said, I would just put it in a different order. I'd put technology first. But this is our biggest challenge, and really fragmentation of the tier 2 and tier 3 supply chain will not allow us to grow at the rate we want to, and therefore either a consolidation effort has to happen or a introduction of great technologies has to happen for us to carry the tier 2 and tier 3 supply chain. Because, when we want to go, if we took the passenger car market from, 4 million to 7 to 8 million, we need this tier 2 and tier 3 supply chain to support us. Electronics, absolutely right. We're going to import $250 billion worth of electronics across industries by 2030, and therefore deep localization. The PLI schemes are very well, sort of positioned for us to invest in future technologies. In fact, in ACMA, we're working with the electronics industry so that we can bring scale to localization of electronics. And we inducted 2 non-automotive component manufacturers in ACMA, and both of them from the electronics industry. We work with startups. The earlier speaker stressed upon startups and the ecosystem of startups with his last point, which is, again, extremely, extremely critical for us in the component industry to really mentor and grow that ecosystem, because again, a lot of new technologies are coming from there. You look at radar, LiDAR, you look at connectivity, you look at, autonomous, all those. And then, there is an aspect that we haven't touched upon, but cybersecurity, another very, very important aspect as we sort of automate not just our vehicles, but our businesses. And, to Deepak's point of digitization rapidly increasing over the lockdown, and logistics is going to be a challenge. But, it's if you see even our chip manufacturing now, if about 2 years ago, a year and a half, if I asked a supply chain manager in an OEM, who do you buy chips from? He wouldn't even know we bought chips, and now suddenly everybody knows everything about chips. So, we've got to continuously, manage and monitor technology and the way that it is going, because again, we're evolving so rapidly. So I think our biggest focus from the component industry, and I continuously say this, is private sectors has to invest in technology more than anything else.
Sunjay has evolved as one of the biggest, advocate of technology, and he doesn't mind even electing Microsoft guy as president of ACMA last time he said. One mandatory question before I open up. We are talking about electrification of all kind of vehicles and equipments, and we are also talking about alternate fuels. In this scenario, entire world is almost at the level playing field. We all are starting from zero. In such a scenario, how do you see, India placing itself on the global pedestal?
So again, a very good question. I think, let me share something with you. A year and a half back, we launched not only the India's first dual tech CNG backhoe loader, but it was world's first CNG backhoe loader. So in India, we have the technology, and I was very proud that we not only sold those machines in India, but the first lot of machines also went to Russia. And I think that is the opportunity in front of us on the alternate fuel side. A lot of work is today taking place on hydrogen. During XCon in May in Bangalore, I was very proud when JCB launched the first electric mini excavator. Again, that technology was showcased. So I think there are different streams of alternate fuel. The smaller machines.
What these vehicles designed and developed in India?
Part of them, yes. Not fully, part of them, yes, certainly. And the CNG machine was completely designed in India because we were giving the solution to the world. I think it's a great opportunity for us from the technology side, particularly on use of alternate fuel. But then again, based on the size of the machine. We are looking at CNG, we are looking at LNG, and we are also looking equally on hydrogen. A few weeks back, I was in UK visiting our R&D center, and it was really a moment of pride for me to see hydrogen IC engine, in action. It is going through testing and validation. We have launched one of the first backhoe loaders there, and I'm sure soon we will be seeing equipment running with all these alternate fuels in the Indian market. That is opportunity in front of us.
Thank you, Deepak. Now I'd open the floor for the question. Yeah.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So, my name is Pooja Yadav. I spoke in the morning as well, product manager with Mahindra and Mahindra Limited. So, Mr. Shetty and Mr. Kapur talked about the importance, and they focused on the farm implement sector in agriculture. So, when we talk about the parts availability, we spoke and we discussed in the morning. Mr. Bhartendu mentioned that OEMs should be focusing more on the technological implements and more on the precision-based implements. But the challenge that OEMs face currently is about the parts availability for those technological and precision special implements. And for the same, the effort which is going is more in importing those parts than the locally available parts, right? So localization is a challenge right now with the OEMs. If you want to localize, of course, there is a technology available in India, but the investment cost is too high that we cannot justify that investment with the numbers in sale. So how do you see this challenge, and how do you see India could take it as an opportunity? Because agriculture being such a low volume, I mean, in agriculture I'm talking about the implements. Implements are still very low volume product, and the availability of highly precision parts is still a challenge. So how do you see how India can cope up with that challenge and emerge, as not as a leader, but as a competition to the European countries in terms of having those sort of precision-based parts? Thank you.
Okay. No, it's a good question. Implements or attachments. I think one of the challenges is how to create first the market. The mentality that we have normally is we are looking at equipment in itself, but we should start looking at equipment as tool carriers. That is what has happened in the Western world. The utilization of the machine goes up, the opportunity for use goes up, and it starts creating, and I think we are at that sort of an inflection point. If I may speak about construction equipment, we are at that inflection point that we should see a rapid growth on that front. Your point is very valid about the investments, but I'll give you an example. All our main control valves or all our valves, we used to get it from Japan earlier, from companies like Kawasaki. I personally have visited them, and we have visited continuously knocking on their doors, and also sometimes ensuring that they set up either their own facilities here or they have a joint venture. Today, some of our valves are being produced by the Kawasaki Wipro facility in Bangalore. So I think as industry leaders, we'll have to work, encourage, so that they start investing in India. And that is how the technology will come. That is how there can be a domestic partner who can work with them, and then we can scale up. We have similarly carried out such, taken such actions on host suppliers, on many other implements. So I think it's a journey. It's not going to happen overnight, and we'll all have to work towards it.
So I'll add to that. This is a very similar problem we had with electric vehicles, right? Volumes are low, volumes are small. How do you put investments? And the investment cycle is on the upswing today in the auto component space for electrification, because the world is our market. You can't be focused on today. Our businesses have become very global in terms of supply, and India is sitting in a very good position to supply globally. Whilst there is a lot of talk of localization, which goes against the whole globalization phenomena. However, I think we need to look at a larger picture and the larger market that exists. So as Deepak said, we're at the tipping point of growth. So the investments that are made today will benefit in the near future, in the near term and the medium term, because that market will open up and there will be more opportunities to supply, and therefore the investment will be justified. And I'm just drawing a parallel to exactly what happened with electrification. It's a very small number today, probably 8-9 million vehicles globally. However, that number is going to go up. And as that number goes up, as that number becomes larger, which it will very soon, and similar thing will happen in this industry.
Thank you.
Okay, one last question. Time is up, but we'll take one last question.
I'm Jayanto. I'm from Tata Steel. In fact, right now I'm looking after the bearings business. My question is to Sunjay. We are actually talking about Make in India, and of course, talking about the technical know-how, the technological know-how, the investments. But I'm worried about the raw material sources. For example, lithium. Lithium is not available in India. It's available in abundance in China. So in whatever sense we talk about Make in India, or whatever source we talk about investments and other things, there are some aspects of it in which we are totally dependent on the other countries. So what is our thinking on that and thought on that? One thing is, of course, developing some alternates. For example, developing ethanol-based fuels and hydrogen-based fuels. But at the same time, there are challenges in terms of the raw materials, which is there. For example, I'm from the bearings industry. I know that lithium prices have increased like anything. And suddenly the grease prices are also increased. It's a known fact, right? So how do we see that? Because there are some raw materials which are extremely essential for making the parts.
So, fortunately, when you talk about lithium, we're not alone in this problem. There are many people who are going to try and solve this problem because they don't want dependence on certain countries. So fortunately, we're not alone. And if we look at alternate materials, we'll find something. If you look at other products, when we look at our own business and we look at motors, we're trying to develop magnetless motors, again, so that we reduce dependence. So I think innovation has to happen. And the reason I keep talking about technology is also because I want to link that to innovation. We have to innovate because we have to reduce dependence on imports more than anything else. Now, we've seen during the pandemic what happened. We've seen with regard to logistics, the challenges we faced because of China and the lockdowns. And therefore, companies are focusing, more and more in terms of innovative products, innovative solutions. And raw material is also changing. If you look at, glass or carbon fiber or, other raw materials, they're changing. So I think, this is a very long conversation because there's a lot of recycling opportunities that will happen because of the circular economy, which will again throw up a lot of different raw materials from what we're using today. So there's a lot of what I like to call research and engineering, as opposed to research and design. And that whole mindset and that shift towards research and engineering because of the fact that we're going to need different raw materials and we're going to have to become more self-sufficient in certain areas, and certain areas we won't be able to, and we're going to have to deal with that. Mining was going to start happening in Australia. I heard. I met a company in England that is making raw earth materials or manufacturing raw earth materials. So there's a lot of innovation happening in that space, and that's really where we're going to have to focus our energies on going forward.
Certainly, it is going to change much faster than ice. So you have many chemistries being discussed already. In the next 2-3 years, you will see many of them already coming in the vehicle. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for taking out time and joining us today. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining ETAuto Farm Equipment Summit 2022. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you very much.